In this video, we're going to talk about how to make your internal world thrive instead of falling into shadow, and how to use lightwork systems to make that possible. Now, the key principle here is viewing your internal world, your internal architecture, as a garden. And when we work with a garden, we need to uproot weeds. We can view that as the shadow. But if we get so obsessed with just uprooting weeds again and again and again, we don't give our resources, our time, our love, our celebration, our sunlight to nurturing and allowing the garden to grow, allowing the ecosystem to emerge. And this is the nature of light work. Very often when we've been doing shadow work, we get into the fix-it mindset. Next shadow, next shadow, next shadow, next shadow. But if you work for a shadow properly and you uproot it at that core seed level, you're going to get a light that comes with it that can just drastically change so much. That can just really alter so many constructs in your mind that you may have not even been aware of. And what this looks like is, if I take an example of someone that I've had a pleasure to work with, an amazing client of mine, and he had these symptoms where he was experiencing this real haze internally, a real constriction. He didn't trust his own mind. And we got down to the initial core seed. And what this was doing was creating anxiety. He couldn't meditate. He could barely just enjoy life. But we gave the core seed back, which was this kind of internal experience of trying to avoid abandonment, thinking that it was somehow his fault, and trying to, work super hard so that it doesn't happen, trying to make sure that this doesn't happen. So his internal world was built around that. But when we just uprooted that, we stayed with the light, which was this real peace, this real lightness, this real internal connection. And instead of moving on to new shadows to fix, to solve, we just stayed with the light. And we just kept with it for days, weeks. And what happened is it grew so large, so vast, so deep, that every area of his life started to change. Even areas that seemed unaffected. The way he showed up in his meetings with his teams, they were saying it's like a whole new version of him. The way he was in his relationship, the actual way he felt internally, instead of being in this real constriction, this anxiety, this stress, this pressure, there was connection, love, peace, feeling so free, because we allowed that light to grow instead of moving on to the next thing. It's like if you just allow your plants or the tree to grow just a little bit, when you move on to the next thing, you're not getting the full capacity that's there. And very often if you grow one tree so vast, so deep, so big, it's going to make such a drastic difference to your ecosystem than jumping from the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. And so now when we work with new shadows, right, new different constructs that may still be there, we're operating from the garden that has this huge tree, that has this light that's already there. And so the shadow work becomes so much easier. And the roots of that huge tree support and help the other trees grow, the other plants grow. And so when we add to the ecosystem now, it's just effortless. The tree kind of takes it in as more of a mature part, right? That original light is really mature and really grown. And then the new lights that may emerge, they are just supported by that. They're much more stable. There's not a system they're fighting. They just come into the garden effortlessly. And this is the nature of working with the light. Instead of constantly doing more and more shadow work, constantly moving on to the next thing. We want to grow the light that's already here. And that can be hard, because we often want to grow more, uproot more, remove more shadows. But the way you can think about it is the canopy of the jungle was decided years ago. The leaves that are emerging right now were decided because a tree grew decades ago. And so when we're working with the leaves, we're getting nowhere. We can chop all those leaves up because we don't like them. But they're just going to grow back because the tree is strong. And when that's a shadow tree, when that's a system we don't want, then it can feel very demoralizing. So we're kind of trying to cut the leaves, trying to fix a symptom, but we don't get anywhere. Yet, if we take our time and we come all the way down to that root, and we uproot it fully, and we grow a new tree, the same thing happens, but with our own light. It becomes really hard for anything to actually go against it, for anything to actually uproot it. And then the next tree comes, and the next tree comes, and the next tree comes. And a mentor of mine once said, sometimes you need to go slow to go fast. And that's the nature here. It's not that we don't have fast breakthroughs. We do. But we can grow it so big and so vast, but we don't need to move on to the next thing. Because one breakthrough can drop away decades of different constructs we took on, can drop away, thousands of triggers, thousands of symptoms, if we do it right. If we stay with the emerging light tree, if we stay with the beautiful light that's just right here with us, instead of moving on to the next problem to fix, we let this stabilize, we let this grow, we let it impact and touch our life in every single capacity we can think of.